What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, which you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow based off the charts are showing and based off what the data is suggesting. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall market and how this may affect Tesla for the short term, what's going on with the SPY, and also some big news that just came out as Tesla's latest deliveries report for Q3 came out. And it makes me very excited for the long-term future, to be honest with everyone. I'm also going to break down what Elon Musk, the man, the myth, the legend, Elon Musk put on his Twitter page before I give you guys my share price prediction. Now, before I say anything about any of this information, however, I do have to mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Don't take any of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. Not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any of these 12 free stocks could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at Tesla right now, we can notice something very interesting. On the 5-minute chart, you could see that Tesla has been continuing to just drop and drop and drop, and the overall setup looks pretty bearish from here. However, we do have this gap all the way up here. Is it possible for us to fill this gap? I mean, yes, but I see it pretty unlikely for the short term. It looks more like Tesla might get a slight push to the upside, but each and every one of these previous support zones are becoming resistance. So we have lots of resistance before we could actually get this gap fill up. Now, if we do get a bit of a bounce, I would still be more bearish because the overall setup does not look the best, in my opinion. On the daily on Tesla, you guys will notice that we got these major rejections off that 314 to 313 levels, and Tesla continues to just get these rejections over and over again. Now, the overall setup kind of resembles an inverse George W. And it looks more like this thing is going to continue to see more downside because the previous support zones were higher before, and now we're making new lows over the last couple of months. With that said, we have this major gap that was formed back in like July. It would actually take Tesla to about that 247 range. I do see this gap getting filled relatively soon. It looks very bearish, to be as frank with everyone as possible. Now, there could be unexpected bounces that come out of nowhere where this thing just like pushes up just a little bit. Very possible, but I would be very cautious when it comes to plays like that because of the fact that the overall market is very, very fearful. You look at the fear and greed index. Right now, extreme fear is driving the market. Right now, people are just panicking. They're very scared. There's all this like talk about a recession, the big crash, and all this fear is really starting to set in, especially after the Fed was speaking for so many instances last week. Now, I do anticipate more Fed speakers are going to continue to speak, and they're pushing this very hawkish narrative that the market that really has a tendency of not liking, it just makes the market actually drop more. So they have another emergency meeting tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. I do anticipate that the markets are not going to really respond to this, but other future speeches, other future events that come out could really affect the markets too. So we are seeing big things happening across Europe. There's very high inflation in Germany. We're seeing the British pound just kind of like coming down pretty hard. It may actually come below the US dollar, which is very funny in my opinion, because a lot of people did not expect that to happen this soon. It's very possible, and we are seeing other things really causing the markets to take these big hits. Now, historically, during these midterm elections, the market tends to start this capitulation phase, or it's supposed to start like near the end of September, going into like October, before we get a big bounce as we approach midterms. Now, in my honest opinion, I don't think that this is entirely invalidated, but it is possible that we could actually see an extension in this downturn period going into October. Now, October is historically a very strong month for the markets. However, this October, it looks like the beginning, maybe like the first week or two, could actually see more lows coming. We could see more downside coming for the beginning of October before we enter this capitulation and bounce phase. I still believe we are going to get a bounce later on, but it's going to take some time, guys. So we have to be very patient for it. So with that said, I'm going to break this down right here before I talk more about Tesla. Right now on the SPY, there's a 2.09 puts to call ratio. This means that institutions, retail, people all over the world, they're loading the boat on these puts. Now, even though this actually could cause more downside for the markets. This also opens an opportunity for the market makers to not just de-hedge, but also take advantage of retail and other people out there buying the puts, because it allows them to make money on the bid to ask spread, especially if they start pushing the market as an opposite reaction. So if one side is too overcrowded, the market has a tendency of doing the opposite. Now, that's not always guaranteed, however, but it is something to note for the second half of this week, because it is possible for the market to actually bounce a bit because of this. Now, am I guaranteeing that? The answer is no. And we so far have not shown signs of a bounce, which is why I'm not counting on it, but it is a possibility that you should keep in the back of your mind. Now, when it comes to Tesla, what's going on with deliveries? Well, the thing is, Tesla had a pretty strong deliveries report overall, because they did actually break past the previous record they made the last time they reported it. However, they missed some expectations set by Wall Street. They were supposed to deliver like 363,000. We ended up getting like 340,000, which is still not bad, but it is a bit of a miss. So this is because of the fact that there were logistic issues. There were also other factors that played a big role in it as well. I don't necessarily see this as a bad sign whatsoever. There were just many challenges that were out of their control. If we look at the overall numbers and we break everything down, we could see that the majority of the deliveries came from the Model 3 and the Model Y, and they had about 343,000 deliveries overall, with 365,000 cars produced right over here. Now, that's a pretty good number in my opinion, especially this new deliveries record. However, I want to know more details about the demand side, because right now demand in China is likely going to start dropping. And because China is one of the largest EV markets in the world, the real question is, how is this going to affect Tesla? And I think they're really going to address this on their earnings report. As of right now, the report is supposed to be on Wednesday, October 19th. So mark your calendars for that. It's going to be happening, and we're going to see a very big webcast where they're going to really address a lot of these problems on the demand side and the big adjustments they're going to make very, very soon. So we have big earnings coming out. It's going to happen after the market closes once again on Wednesday, October 19th for earnings. I think it's going to be very interesting as well. So I also want to talk about something else that's very cool, and that's the fact that when you break down all the numbers, it's already making the headlines. Pretty good quarter overall, but Tesla also noted that their deliveries reports tend to be skewed. They tend to be skewed to the left because they tend to not be as strong at the beginning of the year, and Q3 followed by Q4 tend to be a lot stronger. So they are anticipating that Q4 is going to be their strongest quarter to date. I am really hoping that that's the case. The only thing that I can really see slowing it down would be the lockdowns in China and maybe some supply chain constraints. But I believe Tesla's going to prevail through that, because supply chain constraints are not as big of an issue as they were previously, at least for the short term for Tesla, as commodity prices are dropping and Tesla is actually finding ways to really take care of these problems. But for me personally, what's bigger is the demand side. If Tesla's producing a ton of cars in China, are they actually getting enough buyers for them to actually deliver them overseas into other countries like the USA? I think it's very possible that they're going to be completely fine, but it is something that we have to note on their next deliveries report. Now, other reports are talking about the fact that the next forecast is going to be much better as well for Q4. So I'm very excited for that quarter. I think it's going to be very strong. And I do believe if the market is ready to see like overall consolidation and maybe some capitulation, we could actually see a big reversal in the markets overall in this like bear market by then. By the time Tesla reports their Q4 earnings, it's very, very possible. Now, as far as the data goes for Tesla, we can see right over here, same numbers right over here. I think production was pretty good overall. The Model 3 and Model Y made up the majority of them, as they're very popular. And I do believe that new cars, new gigafactories coming out in the future, they're also going to be very, very awesome for the company. So, what does this mean for the share price? And in my honest opinion, it's very hard to really read at the short term, because overall the setup looks bearish, but some news that came out was actually, I guess, kind of bullish, because AI Day was pretty awesome, but it wasn't necessarily a bullish event at the same time, because Tesla didn't really unveil a new product yet. They're not like telling people that we have robots ready yet. They're still working on it. And I think that the super, super high expectations that Tesla would have a robot that's like fully functional in every single way and almost exactly like a human, I think those really high expectations could negatively affect the company in a way. And maybe the share price for the short term For the long term, I'm still super bullish because of that. Now, note Tesla's main priority in AI Day was to actually recruit a lot of engineers and really spread awareness of what they're trying to do and get as many of the right people as possible to help solve these problems. So, with that said, what on earth is going to happen to the share price in my honest opinion? Well, one thing I don't like about the overall market is the first thing is when you look at the VIX right now, the VIX is currently at about 31. It actually peaked at about 35. And the reason why this is important is when you go back to historical like downtrends in the market or like recessions or crashes, the VIX tends to actually run all the way above 45 during every single major downturn in the markets. We're not even close to that, which is a key indication that there's a lot more downside for the market to come, either like before midterms, maybe for like the next week or two, or maybe even after midterms, right? In my honest opinion, it's very possible. Now, with that said, that means SPY is likely going to continue to make those new lows. Let me just show you this on the daily. The SPY broke below previous support in June. It's continuing to just tumble down and down and down, make those new lows. And we actually closed very close to our low. And it does look like the SPY is heading for that the 340s very soon if we don't see a big bounce from here. Now, what else is interesting is the QQQ is showing a very similar trend, coming down pretty hard. It's kind of like forming this, not like a double bottom in my opinion. We could get a small bounce here, but besides that, it looks more like we're going to make new lows as well for QQQ and NASDAQ and almost everything, so to speak. So with that said, for Tesla, what does this tell us? Tesla looks pretty net bearish in my opinion. Over the next couple of days, maybe the next week or two, I could see Tesla come down to fill this gap. But for tomorrow in particular, Mondays tend to be the days where we get a slight bounce followed by more potential of a reaction from there. Tesla was kind of like lagging compared to the overall market. Tesla was holding up very well when the market was crashing, and now it's kind of transitioned in a way where the overall market is continuing to drop, but now Tesla is getting affected more. And Tesla actually started to drop harder than the overall market for like Wednesday and Thursday, losing a lot of its relative strength. So on the daily time frame on Tesla, let me just show you guys this real quick. And I am going to give you guys my prediction. Just give me like a few minutes. Just want to go over a couple of things. The OBV is starting to drop a little bit, so it's actually holding up all right. A lot of people are holding their Tesla shares, but right now the momentum is coming down on Tesla. It looks like it's continuing to come down, and the overall volume was actually a little bit high compared to this big day right here. This means that Tesla is dropping on kind of higher volume, which is a very bearish indicator. Now, on the daily, if you want to use the 1348, I mean, a lot of people are kind of talk about how this is kind of like a lagging indicator, which is completely understandable, but it is actually very valid in a lot of ways. On the daily, Tesla dropped below the 200 EMA, and we are about to get a 1348 EMA cross, which is a very bearish signal, in my honest opinion. So, overall, I mean, everything is pointing in the direction of potential more downside for Tesla. Now, could we get a kind of like a fake out and a bit of a push up out of nowhere? Sure, it's possible, but to me, I wouldn't be like too bullish on that. I still anticipate more downside after, regardless, based off these indicators. So now let me draw out what could end up happening for tomorrow and some very key zones to watch. So as Tesla dumps down, the key zone I was watching would be that 260. I want to see if it could hold 260. If we break below that, this thing could tumble all the way down to 250 pretty quickly, guys. So be very careful in this zone right here. Now, if Tesla gets a big bounce off this like 265 to 262 level, we could push up, but then 270 is going to be resistance. You can see it right here. Tesla chops around this range quite often. So we push it up. 270 has resistance, then 272 has a little bit of resistance, but stronger resistance is going to be 275. If this thing manages to break 275, if you actually see it hitting like 276, 277, be very careful at 280 because this could be like a fake out. They can like trick a lot of people into thinking that Tesla's about to fill this gap up here, and it ends up like stopping halfway. So be very cautious right now on those fake outs to the upside, and be very careful if you are playing the upside on this stock, because we've seen so much downside over the last couple of days, and I do believe we're not seeing signs of capitulation yet. It looks like Tesla's set for more downside for tomorrow and the later days too. So what could happen tomorrow? I think the most likely thing is a bit of a push to the upside into like the open. This is what the market is kind of like doing, and I think Tesla's going to push up to about 270 into open. It's going to try to fight for it. We might get some volume coming in. Maybe some buyers start to set in. So this thing can kind of like fluctuate in this range like this. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, especially after the big day. but I am anticipating a big rejection somewhere along the lines and maybe even like a fake out. So be very, very careful with these traps. The big market makers like to trick people, so do big institutions. They can try to trick people into thinking this thing is going to like push up like this. All right. And even if we get a push up like this, like I mentioned, I anticipate a big rejection, just like how we got that fake out to that 290 a couple of days ago. So let me just show you that just to give you guys some more of a perspective. Right here, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but right here, Tesla pushed up, huge rejection after that fake out. It was just crazy, and we could see moves like that again. So what I'm anticipating for tomorrow is a lot of chop in the zone. I think we might have somewhat of an edge thanks to like AI day and the deliveries, and we could actually start to see it hold up for some time. But I anticipate a big rejection, especially if the market starts to bleed off as time goes on. So after like the first couple of hours, I think Tesla could hold up. After that, I anticipate this thing to continue to come down, retesting 265, maybe breaking below it. If we break below 265, there's no guarantee we're going to bounce off 262. It's very possible this thing could actually push to about 260 and maybe even test that tomorrow into close. Very possible for us to see something like this. Now, overall, it's a little bit hard to predict the first day after such a bearish or all the bearish price action we've seen. So if we push up a bit, if we don't get that big rejection yet, be super cautious, guys. Like super, super cautious when it comes to playing this. All right. So I am anticipating more downside to come a little later. Even if we hold these levels like the 270 to 275 later on, guys, it looks like it's going to retest 260 very soon, anyways. So that's why I am a lot more bearish than bullish. I'm anticipating more potential downside. And if we get a break below like 260 in one day, it's not going to be pretty, guys. This thing could come all the way to the mid to low 250s pretty quickly if we don't hold 260. That's a very critical zone. And once again, if we end up like testing the 250, trying to hold it, we have that gap all the way down here. Let me just redraw where the gap is. Don't forget the gap down here at like 247. So if you are watching Tesla and this thing breaks below 260, starts chopping around here, we are most likely going to fill the gap super quickly, in my opinion, and we are going to see this thing come all the way down to like 247, maybe even like the low mid 240s as well. So be very cautious right here. Watch these key zones and do what you have to do. Get ready for tomorrow. And I want to just end the video with one last thing, and that's something Elon Musk mentioned. So this person known as Brent Winton stated that, though I understand the perspective, disagree. He mentioned that by specking to human shape and size, you guarantee backward compatibility with the existing built world. He's mentioning that backward compatibility, that basically is critical for successful proliferation of transformative technology. So the main point right here is the fact that a lot of people are talking about humanoid is the wrong form factor for a robot. I understand the point that they're trying to make, but the problem is the number one thing they have to prioritize is not just trying to make it human, but what it could actually do. This is something that a lot of people have mentioned, the fact that a lot of engineers are putting a lot more effort into the hands, the arms, the fingers, right? That's what's very important. And even if the bot like doesn't have the best legs, for instance, or even if it doesn't walk as much like a human, the human aspect of it, it could be an asset or it could be a liability depending on how they end up developing it. So that's something very important for them to remember, that if they're trying to make it very human like, it's not just about being human, it's about being efficient, being compatible, and not necessarily evolving the wrong way. So with that said, that's also what Elon Musk is trying to tell everyone. It's very important to know this if you are trying to develop a product like this, and Tesla's well aware of this. And that's one of the reasons why I'm still super bullish on their AI, their humanoid robots, and everything that they are doing. For the short term, yes, there is likely going to be pain for Tesla. I understand that. For the long term, I'm still super bullish. I can't wait for what the future holds. And with that said, I will definitely see you guys in the next video. So please enjoy the rest of your weekend, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon because the long term future is bright, and peace out.